All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another bonus episode of the Rumcast, the final episode of 2022. I almost said 2023, but it's the final episode of 2022, John, and we decided to do something extra special for this episode. Usually these episodes are reserved for our Rumcast patrons. We're going to go ahead and release it to everyone. We've never done this before. It's the first time, but you know, 'tis the season, as they say. So a little surprise gift to close out the year. We're releasing this episode to everyone. So if you notice a strange episode in your feed and you're like, why did this come out so soon? That's why. So yeah, I'm excited. We're
more relaxed in these bonus episodes too. So it's,
very laid back.
Yeah.
It's like Rumcast After Dark.
I love it. Yes, exactly.
Normally with these episodes, we have a variety of different types we do for these. One type is what we call Release Rumblings, where we look at some upcoming releases or upcoming potential releases. Sometimes these are officially announced. Sometimes they're things we've noticed on the TTB registry and things like that. But just interesting releases that catch our eye that we're, we think are notable or looking forward to explore in some way when they come out. So we're going to run through a handful of those. But before we get to that, since it's the end of the year, John, and this is the time when everyone starts thinking about their plans for the new, not everyone, but a lot of people obviously start thinking about their plans for the new year, making resolutions, setting goals, dreaming, making wishes about what they want to come true in 2023. And I thought it would be fun if we each came with a rum category, rum industry, rum whatever wish for 2023, something rum related that we hope happens in 2023, something that we want to happen. Now, a lot of times we do annual predictions as well around this time of year. These are not predictions. They're just things that we desire in some capacity in our heart of hearts. Yeah, predilections. Exactly.
Predilections.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to this. We haven't talked about what ours are. We did, we went about our own ways and came up with our wishes in advance. So I knew you would have one, but I'm interested to find out what yours is. Do you want to be the first, or should I jump right into mine?
Yeah, I'll go first for this one, I guess. So first, I think when you pitched it, I thought, that's a nice idea. I had to warm up to it, but I was like, thinking about how many times the last few years I remember the year starting off and people like already trying to proclaim it like a dumpster fire, oh, 2022 is terrible already, and blah, blah, blah. It's just been, a few tough years.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I like this idea. I like that we're starting off on a good foot. We're thinking 2023 is going to be good things and a better year in some ways than 2022 or 2021.
Yeah,
so
I'm not that much of an optimist, but I do think that if there's a time of year for optimism, it's this time of year. So why not? Why not look on the bright side? Why not be glass half full?
Exactly. Glass half. I like how you said that.
Did I say glass half full? Wow.
What language is that?
This is what happens in the bonus episodes. Yeah. Glass half full. So that tells me that yours is going to be a positive wish. I'm looking forward to it.
It is a positive wish. And, like you said, it's time for us to look back and then we look forward. So in looking forward to 2023, I think 2022 for me was kind of the year of independent bottlers in a way. Not that, independent bottlers have been around forever, of course, but I think we started to see with Holmes Key and now others that are coming into the market, in the US market particularly, that there's more offerings from independent bottlers and we're seeing more coming, which I think shows a healthy and strong rum market here. And also, I think globally there's a lot of action as well with independent bottlers doing a lot of things, as we're going to talk about in a little bit with some of these other new releases from, so I'm thinking what I wish for 2023 is I want to see these independent bottlers continue to grow and continue to bring us things perhaps from different distilleries or different countries making rum that we have yet to see here in the past.
So you want them to expand their horizons a little bit, is what I'm hearing.
And maybe take some risks. And what I mean by that is, we all know there's great rums from pick a country, Jamaica, Barbados, Fiji, many others that we know are already well established. We know they're going to sell. We know that they're good. I think there are other places out there.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a risk because the market doesn't yet know about them, or you have to experience it to try it, and there's always a lot of risk involved with that. And I understand that. But I also think in order for the market to continue to grow, well, you can only have so many Barbados or Fiji or whatever releases out there before the market kind of sits on those. Yeah. So I want to see... my wish is that independent bottlers will start to take risks on maybe distilleries that are somewhere in the world and somehow get them imported to different markets like the U.S. market, or what's not in the European market that is in the U.S. market, and share it over that way, vice versa. So, more globalization in that way. That's my wish. Do I predict? I don't know. We'll see when that comes to it. If I really think that's a prediction, no. But I wish and I hope to see that. I'm like Thanos, Will. I want to collect all the Infinity Stones, and I see it like anytime I see a country that I've never seen before on a bottle name, like the name, I don't know, Vietnam, I think I saw recently, and I was like, ooh, how do I get that?
Right. I feel like you're more like, what's the kid's name from Pokemon?
Yes, Ash.
Yeah,
I'm
you're more
Ash
like
from
Ash.
Pokemon.
You got to catch them all.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And I do feel like we do see examples of this, right? Because I think a lot of independent bottlers share that enthusiasm for sourcing, like finding those new places. And so we see it sometimes, when an independent bottle, like in our year in review episode, we talked about rums from Taiwan, that the whiskey exchange did an exclusive bottling, although that was kind of like partnering with the distillery in some capacity, but
sure, which is fine. Yeah,
that kind of needs to take place a lot of times anyway, because a lot of times these distilleries don't always have as established relationships with the third party brokers. So I would love to see more of that as well. And it's interesting that you went with the independent bottler angle for your wish, because mine, the pendulum is going to kind of swing back the other way a little bit. So not that I don't like independently bottled releases. I do. I think there's a place for both independent bottlers and direct from distillery releases.
Oh, fully agree.
Yeah. And I know. Yeah. It goes without saying that we're all in agreement there. And, historically, the pendulum was kind of on the independent bottler side of things. And it's only been in recent years that it's been swinging back more towards, places like Hampton, Worthy Park, putting out their own branded releases and stuff like that, which has been awesome. But at the same time, I do think that independent bottlers bring some value of their own to the table, and having those different perspectives out there is great. But here's my wish. And I think you're going to be in agreement with me. As fun as it would be to get in a big fight tonight, I think this will be something we're in agreement on. So
this is a bonus episode. We might fight.
That's right.
We'll throw down.
More accessible limited releases from particularly major distilleries. Where I started with this was I was thinking to myself, every major distillery should be doing regular single cask releases. But then in my mind, I was like, single casks are great, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be single cask releases. What I'm looking for is just some sort of out of the ordinary limited releases that come out consistently and are, I'm not talking about like 20,000 bottles or something like that, but hopefully more than just 1,000 or 2,000 bottles. What I'm looking for are those like sweet spot limited releases that bring something different to the table, but are also still accessible for a lot of people. And what I don't want in all this is you don't need to go overboard on age. It doesn't have to necessarily be cask strength, but I'd like to see something like minimum, 90 proof or so, somewhere there around there would be great. And if possible, the price range I'm looking for is just something that's under $100 a bottle. And the types of producers I'd love to see this from more are Mount Gay, Appleton, Don Q, Barbancourt, Angostura, these bigger
well-established.
More established, where we don't get that peek behind the curtain as often. I think the template for distillery that does this really well is St. Lucia Distillers, which we've talked about a lot before, but their Master Selection series is great, and it really it enables you to see another side of the distillery and kind of, celebrate their skill in distillation and all the different components they have, and showing you all the individual pieces of the puzzle, you know, that they put together in their blends. And, you know, the classic example of what I would like to see less of, and I'm not saying this has to go away, but if you're going to do what I'm about to describe, I would like for you to do something that's similar to the more accessible release that I just described. But what comes to mind for me is like the Master Blenders collection from Mount Gay, right? Nothing against Mount Gay, nothing against the quality of those releases. The ones that I've been able to try are fantastic. You know, everyone involved with those is doing a killer job, but it's usually, I think the latest release is about 2,700 bottles or so. The price is usually around $250, and, you know, some amount of that is going back into the fancy box that it comes in, which I don't need a box. I don't need a box for these releases. I know the box
like the box.
The Mount Gay box, it looks beautiful. What I'm talking about for this kind of release I'm describing, I don't need the box. So, you know, just save your boxes, keep the price down, keep sustainability more high, you know, whatever. But that's what I would like to see less of from producers, because those sell out super fast. Only a small number of people can experience them, and they're prohibitively priced for a lot of people. So I would say take a hard look at what St. Lucia Distillers is doing. Also, to an extent, what, you know, Foursquare does with their ECS series. Look at those as kind of a template, and I would just love to see more of that from distilleries, the established brands, because I really think they're kind of outsourcing this to the independent bottlers right now. You know, like we see those types of releases I described from independent bottlers all the time from some of those distilleries I listed, but we don't see it from the distilleries themselves. And I'm sure there are some economic reasons for that, but it's working for some distilleries, or appears to be from the consumer perspective. So I don't see why it can't work for many others. And I would love to see more of that in 2023. That's my wish.
Yeah, I think you started down the road of what my thought was, which is it has to make business sense also. Yeah. And so I get why there is that kind of very super premium, to use the Mount Gay example, $250 type of release, because number one, it's like a status symbol thing. Yeah, silly as that is, I think that's where they go with that. It's like, oh, this is hard, super hard to get, and, you know, it's very expensive because it must taste good if it's that expensive, right? That's the whole kind of train of thought. What I think there may be room for, and to support your argument here, is why not both? I think you can probably have both, and I don't think it's going to dilute that market necessarily, because you still have that, you know, whatever you want to call it, super ridiculous. We'll call it ridiculous premium. That's what I'm going to call those from now on. Ridiculous premium offers. Ludicrous speed.
The RP segment of the market. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can still have that level that you're talking about, which is that, you know, couple of thousand bottle, still limited release, but in a better price point. It doesn't have to be, to your point, cask strength. I do think I prefer, like you said, I want to see a bottom 46 or 48 kind of ABV on it. But I'm in full agreement with where you're going with it, and actually I'm hoping to see that as well. So we're in line, like you said. No surprise, I guess. No fight this time. We're on the same page with it.
It's the time for people to come together. You know, it's not the time for fighting here at the end of the year.
Agreed. But let's take some risks. I think our through line here between both of our wish is let's take some risks with it. Yeah. And it's easy for us to say. We're not putting up the money. Obviously, we're just drinking it. But that's what I'm hoping to see.
We're saying. We pledge to buy it.
And we think there's a lot more people that will buy it with us.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. All right. Well, that was a fun little exercise. I think now let's go ahead and let's talk about some interesting releases that have come across the interwebs in the last month or so. We'll start with the first one, which a lot of people have probably seen. This is I'll describe it as a pair of releases, even though it's more than two bottles. But there were two interesting releases that La Maison Velier announced online in December. And the first one is pretty straightforward. It was just something called the Flag series, which is basically, they describe it as a new range from La Maison Velier, celebrating old rum casks from around the world. And, you know, pretty broad description, but the first two releases they announced are squarely in that description, I would say. One is a Fiji rum distilled in 2001. So this is a 21-year-old. Yeah,
yes,
bottled
21.
in 2022. So a 21-year-old rum. Some of it was aged initially in ex-bourbon in Fiji until 2009. Then in 2010, it was aged in Europe in an ex-rum cask, bottled at cask strength. And the only thing that popped out to me about that Fiji, like, one, yes, this is very old, like the description said. It's the purpose of this is to celebrate old rum casks. Yeah. But it's also that year, 2001. That's the same year that the Holmes Key Fiji 2001 release that both you and I just talked about on our year in review episode, which when it came out claimed to be the oldest single cask Fiji rum ever released. So I think this one would tie, if not possibly exceed that one, depending on how the months break down in that 21st year. But so yeah, it just struck me that we're getting another super old Fiji, and if it's as good or comes as close as that Holmes Key one, that would be a pretty desirable catch right there.
Yeah, you noticed it was in 2001, which obviously Americans are going to remember September 11th, 2001. This was actually distilled on September 12th.
Oh, wow.
2001.
I didn't notice that. Yeah.
I mean, obviously way over in Fiji, it's, far away from that world event, but still an event that was globally felt. Yeah. So it's just a kind of a curious aside or whatever that it was.
I don't know.
It
says distilled on 12th of September 2001. I don't know how that date didn't immediately pop out to me, but interesting note there.
It was interesting.
And the other one they announced, it's a 25-year-old Guyana rum. It says that it comes from their double retort wooden pot still, which would be the Port Morant still. And aged in Guyana for 2 years. Then it was aged in cognac barrels in Europe for 23 years, bottled at cask strength. So obviously pretty rare stuff in that bottle, and something, it's not like we haven't seen Guyana rums that old before, but certainly something that's probably going to be pretty high quality. But really it's the other release they announced that caught my eye more. And part of that is because I'm pretty sure this one will also be coming to the US, because there was a TTB label approval that went through for this one, even though I believe the bottle pictured in the photo they released is the European release, since it has centiliters on the label. But this was the newest release in their Papalin range of rums, which I think listeners will be familiar with the Papalin rums that came out in 2022, which those were a blend of rums from Hampton and Worthy Park, aged entirely in Jamaica. This one is following that style of release. However, this release is from Haiti. And instead of being a blend of 2 distilleries, it's a blend of 5 different distilleries in Haiti, and then aged entirely at origin there. It's 4 years old. But what really stuck out to me about this, because when I initially saw it, it's just, Papalin, Haiti, blend of different producers, I was like, oh, this is probably kind of like
Communal.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that, where it's, the 4 main Clarin producers, maybe some Sanson in there, because it does say 5 Haitian rums. It does say it's a blend of 5 on the label. However, that's not what it is. This is not an entire...
Au contraire.
It's, au contraire. This is not a blend of Clarins. There are 4 Clarins in this, but the 5th is not a Clarin. It is rum from Distillery de Port-au-Prince, also known as Providence rum, which we spoke to Herbert recently from Providence Rum on the podcast. So it's a blend of Vival, Sajus, Casimir, Le Rocher, and Distillery de Port-au-Prince. So when I saw that was part of the equation as well, I was like, oh, that's not what I was expecting. And I also, maybe this was announced initially when the first Papalin rums came out, but I didn't realize that they were going to take that label and that line of releases beyond just Jamaica and Hampton and Worthy Park.
Me either.
That was kind of news to me.
Yeah, I was a surprise to see it, and I see their color scheme has expanded as well.
Some nice yellow in there.
It's a nice yellow.
Nice. I like a little accent of green there, and the little emblem. It's nice.
Yeah. By the way, you say Papalin. And I have no idea. I mean, have you heard somebody else also call it? Because I've also called it Papalin.
Papalin.
And I don't know why.
This is the peril of having a podcast is you say words how you've been saying them in your head, and it's not until you're being recorded that you start to think, wait, am I the only one who says it this way? I feel like I've heard other people say Papalin, but maybe it is Papalin. I'm not sure.
I just don't know where to put the emphasis. Papalin?
the emphasis, yeah. I don't know where it goes. And one other note on this is that there's some interesting cask types were used in this. So they say there were, the rums were aged in a mix of different casks, including Coroni, Mount Gay barrels, Buffalo Trace bourbon casks, and even cognac casks. So all kinds of stuff going in here. And then you got the 4 years of aging in Haiti, cask strength, 53.1%, and also like the previous releases, 100% pot still distillation as well. So like I said, I reached out to Kate Perry before we started recording. Haven't heard confirmation yet of if or when this is coming to the US, but like I said, they have gotten the label approved for the US all the way back in the summer. So hopefully they follow through on those plans and some of this comes to the US, just as we got some of the Jamaican Papalin releases. So it'd be great to see that on our shores here, and I'm excited for that. That's certainly one I would buy on site for sure.
Yeah. Do you find it interesting that they used the word only? So it doesn't just say pot still. It says only pot still. I guess that's just to emphasize this is a big blend, but it's all pot still, and they're making that very clear.
Yeah, I think that's just to kind of like play up the exclusivity factor, you know. And I think Velier has always had kind of a love affair with pot stills, you know,
that's
having the Habitation line, which is all 100% pot still. So, you know, only it's a little marketing. And I think it's
I just wanted to be in the room when that happened. They're like, it said 4-year-old pot still, and somebody was like, no, only pot still. And they were like, someone
was like, what if we said exclusively? And then they had a whole like 7-hour debate over whether
and then we went back to only.
Yep. Yeah. I like only better.
Yeah. Before we move on to the next one here, I just wanted to quickly say with the Flag series, did you also notice the art on these two bottles? And I know, like you said, these bottles may change for the U.S. market, but that it almost strikes me as deconstructed Flag.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I have.
It's not Mondrian, right?
I have such little art knowledge and art history, but when I see it, my brain wants to just say cubist. I have no idea if it's actually cubist or not, but it's kind of like deconstructing the flags, like you were saying, and like really kind of bringing out the geometry of them in some way.
Yes,
it makes me think of geometry when I see it, but it's no surprise to me that I find the labels very well done, as I typically do from La Maison Velier products.
They're nice. I like these also, and I think there's something to it. I expected somehow that deconstructing the rum also was going to follow. I don't see that necessarily as being the case here. But I figured somehow that might have had something to do with it, but it just could have been a nice looking label. And they were like, well, we can't use the exact flag, but we can make it look flag-ish.
Yeah, well, honestly, I think like if they just use the exact flag, I don't know if it would look quite as cool. So
for once we agree on that. Yeah,
they're both nice looking labels. I like them both. So,
all right.
Yeah, moving on. The next one. This is not a new release necessarily, but when I was scrolling through the TTB registry, which is the registry where labels are approved in the United States, I noticed a brand name that I had never seen there before, which was Longiteau, one of the distilleries on Guadeloupe, and something that I see quite a bit from friends out there in Europe. I know their releases are quite prevalent over there, but I've never seen their rums in the US. And when I saw that, I was like, wait a second, have they ever even been distributed in the US? And after looking into it, texting a few people, I can't find a time where that brand has been distributed or carried in the US. And so seeing these label approvals, which they were approved on December 15th, and it was for their entire range of, or I won't say entire range, but a large part of their unaged rum range. So they have rums at 40% ABV, 50%, 62%, 55%. There's a label approved for all four of those. And there's also a label approved for one of their aged expressions as well. And part of the reason why this was exciting to me, listeners won't know this yet, but in a forthcoming episode the probably our next episode will be releasing. If not, then sometime in January. We talked to someone who just spent quite a bit of time in Guadeloupe and Martinique as well, and Marie Gallant, which I believe is part of Guadeloupe, and had a chance to visit most of the distilleries there. And it really it was already in the back of my mind how much more I think there is, especially for American rum enthusiasts, to explore from those places, because Europe is just so far ahead of us in terms of what's available from those islands over there. But so getting another Guadeloupe distillery here in the US, I think would be a really, really positive thing. And I would be very excited about it. So hopefully these label approvals mean that is indeed what is going to happen.
Yeah, I'm over the moon for this. I agree with you fully that I'm looking forward to more agricole rum, and it's specifically that Guadeloupe rum being available. So that is a very good thing. And 2023 is looking up.
Yeah, it certainly is. And then last but not least, I wanted to cover actually something from our own shores here in the U.S. The label approval for this just came in. I believe it was today, December 29th, when we're recording this. So it may have been fate. But this is a distillery that I am enthusiastic about. I had the chance to visit them for the first time in 2022 and tasted a bunch of really fun stuff. It's from Release Distilling in New Orleans, and this is a bottled in bond rum release, which anytime I see that phrase put on a bottle of rum, it just makes me feel happy inside, John. I don't know. When you see bottled in bond, do you get as excited as I do?
You know, I do actually. Coming from bourbon, I guess that it means something, right? So it's automatically feels like there's some sort of quality statement attached to that phrasing. Although I see they didn't use bottled hyphen in hyphen bond.
Don't focus on the lack of hyphens, John.
I'm missing hyphens here. I don't know. It's screwing me up.
People don't want to hear the hyphen breakdown right now on the Rumcast, I don't think. But I will agree that I noticed that as well as someone who writes for a living. The lack of hyphens. I don't know which way is the correct way. I know. I was about to break down grammatical rules of hyphens. Literally, no one wants to hear that. So let's just stay focused.
That's the bonus episode.
Yeah. So bottled in bond, as you alluded to, it's terminology that's used quite a bit in bourbon. There are some other rum distilleries that have used it. All of them, to my knowledge, have been in the U.S., which I think makes sense because I believe the term itself, it's codified in American law. I don't know if any other country uses the same language. I'm sure there may be equivalent language, but
right.
Other distilleries that you may have seen use this, Privateer is one. I think they were the first to do it. And I know Wicked Dolphin Distillery in your neck of the woods in Florida, they've done it as well. But it was basically, and the back label of this release goes into the backstory, but there was it was a consumer protection law, basically, the Bottled in Bond Act of 1897. And it was designed to protect the consumer from adulterated whiskey, brandy, rum, whatever liquors were popular and being sold at the time. Basically, if it has bottled in bond on the label, that means it was aged at least 4 years in wood. There was nothing added to it except water, and it has to be at least 100 proof as well. And so it's kind of like a quality mark for American spirits, essentially. And it's always been a little puzzling to me why more American producers don't utilize that terminology, since there is such a desire for transparency and no additives amongst rum geeks. And, if you're a small craft distillery in the US, that's kind of who you should be targeting. Well, you really should be focused on your local market, but also, beyond that, if you can do something to get the attention of the rum geeks, I think that's always good. So seeing another distillery do bottled in bond terminology, I think is great. And this rum is actually, I know it says at least 4 years. This one was distilled in the spring of 2017 and bottled fall 2022, according to this label that was approved. So this will be an over 5-year-old rum, which is, for me, when you get to 4 or 5 years from an American craft rum distillery, that's kind of where, they've been around for a while, they've been at this, they've been open long enough to have a 5-year rum that's somewhat noticeable. But also, like I said, it's one of the select American rum distilleries that I think is worthy of attention from the rum community and does really interesting stuff. They're doing long fermentations. They're doing dunder. Yep. They have their own little barrel of muck that they have there at the distillery, which I got to stick my head in while I was there. It was actually quite lovely. It smelled of kind of like strawberries and yeast, basically. But it was.
Yeah. So you didn't stick your head into the actual muck.
It wasn't
just a barrel containing the muck.
I wasn't bobbing.
Okay, you weren't dunked.
It wasn't bobbing for muck.
I just want to make sure I avoided that rum that your head was in. Okay.
Yeah, the head did not break the surface, but I had to really fan the aroma into my face. But so they're doing some cool stuff there. And historically, I've had some of they do all their aged stuff is typically single barrel because, they're small. I've always liked their unaged stuff more than their aged stuff. But this past visit, I got to try some stuff, and a lot of it was really interesting to me. And so I'm curious about what 5 years would do with their rum. Because like I said, if you've had their unaged rum, it's funky, but it is not funky in the same way that like a Jamaican rum is funky. It's its own brand of Louisiana funk. Whatever they're doing, it's different. And I've seen people have very passionate reactions one way or the other about it, but I really enjoy. They have an overproof rum in particular, an unaged overproof rum that I enjoy quite a bit. So just seeing the bottled and bond language, I think is interesting and notable. I'd love to see more distilleries kind of trying to champion that language, particularly those in the US. I don't think it makes as much sense necessarily for distilleries from other places that, don't have that tradition or whatever to use it. But I think it's a great thing for transparency and for people to see that on a rum label. I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, agreed. I like what they did with the label also here. By the way, I know you will know this. Rouleaison, I want to say that means rolling or roll, something like that. Is there a meaning to that you know of?
So I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, yes. Okay, it came to mind. I was pretty sure it's like French term for the sugarcane harvest.
Right.
I double checked their website, and it says the French Creole term for the sugarcane harvest. So it might not be. It probably isn't used the same way in French, but regional French Creole term for the sugarcane harvest, which makes sense. I know they do source all their it's all molasses-based rum. It really is. Although they did do a small batch, one-off cane juice release at one point that I enjoyed quite a bit. But they do get all their molasses locally down there. I think directly from a mill. So yeah, it kind of goes into their whole ethos of locally sourced ingredients and kind of celebrating the all things Louisiana. So. I'm excited about this one, and I'm sure it's going to be limited as things from distilleries as small as Rouleaison typically are. And when I say it's small, by the way, like when I went there for the first time, like you walk in and you basically like you turn to your left, turn to your right, look straight ahead, and like you can see everything. Basically, like it's and I don't say that to like be dismissive or whatever, because I think what they're doing with what they have is really impressive. But it's a small distillery, so I would not expect this to be like 1,000 bottles or anything. But it's certainly one I'm going to keep an eye out for and try to get my hands on some when it comes out.
There's only one way to get to 1,000 bottle releases, and that is to start what they're doing and gain reputation and make good rum, and you'll keep going. And exactly. I like the other things on this one. After Bottled and Bond, it reads like a movie trailer to me. They need to get movie trailer guy to
does it start with In a World?
One distiller, one season, one distillery.
Yeah.
It's boldly put there in a way that I think is cool and makes sense. And apropos, by the way, because the last sentence on the back, I don't know if you saw this, was it's saying, enjoy this glass of truly exceptional long-awaited rum and have a toast with us to the future.
To the future. To 2023.
To the future.
As we are doing right now. Yeah,
exactly.
You saying the movie trailer thing, I could picture that text on the front label doing like a vertical scroll, the Star Wars intros.
The Star Wars, yeah.
I could see that, yeah. Anyway, so that's a handful of releases that will hopefully be coming up in the first part of 2023, depending on timing and everything, of course. All of this, particularly the ones we're looking at from the TTB registry, there's a bit of speculation involved there, but stuff that caught our attention, stuff that we're excited about, stuff that I think people listening would be excited about. But yeah, here is to a great 2022. Some things were great in 2022, some things weren't, as are typical in most years. But here at the Rumcast, for the Rumcast, it was a great year, and we are looking forward to 2023. We thank everyone again for listening. and hope you enjoyed this little slice of our bonus episodes. If you'd like to hear more of these, if you'd like to, we actually, right after this, we're doing our December happy hour for our Cask Strength patrons. So if you would like to get all of these episodes going forward, you can go to patreon.com/the Rumcast. That's patreon.com/the Rumcast. We'll also have a link in the show notes. But thanks to everyone for listening out there.
Yeah.
I know we said it on the last episode, but we truly do appreciate the support, the community, the comments that are always shared. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's why we love doing the show. So thanks to all of you. And John, cheers to 2023. This may be the last evening I see you before it's 2023. So
see you next year.
Hope you have a great New Year's Eve celebration. Hope you celebrate responsibly. Have some rum, but don't drink too much. You don't want to wake up on January 1st feeling like crap to start 2023. So be responsible out there, everyone. But cheers to everyone and have a great New Year.
Cheers, everyone.